The azure waters of the Caribbean Sea shimmered below, a picture of paradise. But high above, a tragedy was unfolding. West Caribbean Airways Flight 708, a charter flight from Panama City to Martinique, was about to become a horrifying example of the unthinkable disasters that can befall even the most routine flights. This is the story of those final moments. The story of the passengers, the crew, and a fight for survival against impossible odds. August 16, 2005, dawned like any other day. At Tocumen International Airport in Panama City, 152 passengers prepared to board Flight 708. They were a diverse group: French tourists returning home after vacations in Panama, young couples starting their honeymoons, families excited to reunite with loved ones. Among the passengers were 147 French citizens and a crew of 7 Colombians. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation and the joy of travel. No one could have predicted the horror that awaited them. The McDonnell Douglas MD-82, a reliable workhorse of the skies, taxied to the runway. Excitement rippled through the cabin as the plane lifted off. It soared into the clear blue sky, leaving Panama City behind. The first leg of the journey, from Panama City to Fort-de-France, Martinique, was uneventful. Passengers settled in, enjoying the in-flight service, gazing out at the clouds, lost in their thoughts, their dreams. As Flight 708 cruised at 33,000 feet, the first signs of trouble appeared: a subtle shaking, a change in the engine noise. In the cockpit, the warning lights flickered, then blazed. The autopilot disconnected. The carefree atmosphere evaporated, replaced by a chilling tension. Captain Omar Ospina and First Officer David Munoz, both experienced pilots, sprang into action. Section 5. A cockpit in chaos. The struggle for control. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The left engine, starved of power, sputtered and died. The plane, now flying on a single engine, began to lose altitude. Mayday calls crackled over the radio, a desperate plea for help. The pilots fought to control the crippled aircraft. They struggled to maintain altitude, to keep the plane from spiraling down. But the MD-82, designed to fly on 2 engines, was losing the battle against gravity. Section 6. Plunging into the abyss. Terror at 33,000 feet. Inside the cabin, panic set in. The sickening feeling of dropping, the oxygen masks dropping from the ceiling. The desperate prayers whispered in the darkness. The terrifying reality of the situation was impossible to ignore. They were falling from the sky. Stewardesses moved through the cabin, their faces pale but composed, trying to calm the terrified passengers. They instructed them to put on their oxygen masks to brace for impact, but their words were lost in the deafening roar of wind and the cries of fear. Section 7. The final descent. A crash heard around the world. This is the story of a tragic event that shook the aviation world and left an indelible mark on the hearts of many. The struggle in the cockpit continued. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the pilots fought against the inevitable. Captain Ospina and First Officer Munoz, their voices strained, their faces etched with desperation, tried every maneuver they knew. They communicated rapidly, their words a mix of technical jargon and urgent pleas for the aircraft to respond. But their efforts were in vain. The aircraft, a once majestic machine, now seemed to be a beast beyond their control. The right engine, also starved for fuel, lost power. The gauges showed the grim reality, and the pilots knew they were running out of options. The plane went into a steep, uncontrollable dive. The ground rushed up to meet them, and the cockpit was filled with the sounds of alarms and the desperate voices of the crew. The last words from the cockpit, captured on the black box recorder, were chilling in their finality. "We're running out of fuel. No more, no more." Then, silence. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. The MD-82, carrying the hopes and dreams of 152 souls, slammed into a remote mountainous region of northwestern Colombia. The impact was catastrophic, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The impact, a deafening roar that reverberated through the jungle, was heard for miles around. The once serene landscape was now marred by the wreckage of the aircraft, a somber reminder of the lives lost in the tragedy. The jungle, usually teeming with life, was now eerily silent, as if mourning the loss of those on board. Section 8. Aftermath and Investigation, Unraveling the Truth. The crash of Flight 708 sent shockwaves across the globe. News outlets around the world covered the disaster extensively, and people everywhere were glued to their screens, seeking updates and hoping for a miracle. Rescue teams struggled to reach the remote crash site, a scene of unimaginable devastation. The terrain was treacherous and the weather conditions were far from ideal. Despite their best efforts, there were no survivors. The investigation into the crash was complex and lengthy. Aviation experts from multiple countries collaborated, piecing together the fragments of the aircraft and the sequence of events that led to the tragedy. The black box recordings, combined with wreckage analysis and maintenance records, revealed a chilling truth. Every detail was scrutinized, from the final moments captured in the cockpit to the maintenance logs that documented the plane's history. The plane had run out of fuel. This revelation was shocking, as it pointed to a fundamental failure in the flight's planning and execution. The investigation pointed to a series of errors, from improper fuel calculations to inadequate maintenance, that culminated in tragedy. Each mistake, seemingly minor on its own, combined to create a catastrophic failure. The fuel contamination, discovered during the investigation, played a critical role in the engine failures. This contamination had gone unnoticed during routine checks, highlighting significant lapses in the safety protocols. In the aftermath, the aviation industry faced intense scrutiny. New safety regulations were implemented to prevent such a disaster from happening again. The lessons learned from Flight 708's tragic end would shape the future of aviation safety. The victims of Flight 708 were honored in a solemn memorial service. Families and communities came together to mourn their loss and support one another. The legacy of those lost would not be forgotten, as their memory spurred changes that aimed to save future lives. Experts from around the world gathered to discuss and implement safety improvements. The global aviation community united in their commitment to ensuring that such a tragedy would never occur again. The crash of Flight 708 became a catalyst for change, driving advancements in aviation safety standards and practices. Section 9. Legacy of Flight 708. A call for change. The loss of West Caribbean Airways. Flight 708 was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unforgiving nature of aviation. On that tragic day, 160 lives were lost, leaving a void that could never be filled. Families were shattered, communities were left in mourning, and the aviation industry was forced to confront its vulnerabilities. The tragedy led to significant changes in the aviation industry, particularly in the areas of fuel management, pilot training, and maintenance procedures. It became evident that the existing protocols were not enough to prevent such a disaster. The industry had to evolve, to adapt, and to ensure that such a catastrophe would never happen again. Fuel management systems were overhauled, ensuring that pilots had better tools and information to make critical decisions. The crash highlighted the importance of clear communication, rigorous safety protocols, and the need for a unified approach to aviation safety. Air traffic controllers, pilots, and ground staff had to work in harmony, understanding that a single miscommunication could lead to dire consequences. The emphasis on clear and concise communication became paramount, with new training programs introduced to reinforce these skills, and the need for a constant focus on preventing such disasters. Safety briefings became more detailed, inspections more thorough, and the culture within the aviation industry shifted towards a proactive approach to safety. It was no longer about reacting to incidents but preventing them from occurring in the first place. This proactive stance was a direct result of the lessons learned from Flight 708. But beyond the regulations and the technical improvements, the story of Flight 708 is a human story. It is a story of the lives that were lost, the dreams that were shattered, and the families that were left to pick up the pieces. The human impact of the tragedy cannot be overstated. Memorials were erected and services held, but the pain and loss endured by the families remain a poignant reminder of the cost of aviation failures. A story of hope and despair, of courage and loss, that continues to resonate with those who were affected. The bravery of the crew, the resilience of the families, and the solidarity of the aviation community all came to the forefront in the aftermath of the crash. These elements combined to create a narrative that is both heartbreaking and inspiring, forever etched in the memories of those who lost loved ones on that fateful day. The images of grieving families holding photos of their loved ones, the names inscribed on memorial walls, and the flowers laid at the crash site serve as a constant reminder of the human cost of aviation disasters. These memories are not just personal but have become a part of the collective consciousness of the aviation community. It is a story that continues to resonate, urging us to never forget the lessons learned. Advocacy groups have emerged, dedicated to promoting aviation safety and ensuring that the memories of those lost are honored through action. These groups work tirelessly to push for better regulations, improved training, and more robust safety measures, urging us to never forget the lessons learned and to strive for the highest standards of safety in the skies. Conferences and seminars are held regularly, where industry experts come together to discuss the latest advancements in aviation safety. These gatherings serve as a platform to share knowledge, learn from past mistakes, and chart a course for a safer future, and to strive for the highest standards of safety in the skies. The legacy of Flight 708 is a call to action, a reminder that the pursuit of safety is an ongoing journey. Every takeoff, every landing, and every flight in between is a testament to the lessons learned and the commitment to ensuring that such a tragedy never happens again. The skies may be vast and unpredictable, but with unwavering dedication to safety, we can navigate them with confidence and care.